Well, look who showed up! The flying mustache man himself! Tell me something, are you here to save the world or destroy a few more cities?
I don't have time for jokes. I've seen enough chaotic fools like you.
Chaos? Oh no, pal. I call it entertainment. And you look like a guy who hasn't laughed in a few centuries.
I've lived long enough to know one thing. The ones who laugh the most usually fall the fastest.
Ooh, that was good! But there's one tiny problem.
And what's that?
In this video, we explore one of the most chaotic and dangerous battles between absolute physical power and reality-bending madness. The Mask versus Omni-Man. On one side is the Mask, a mysterious being wielding an ancient, magical mask. In the film version, the most famous mask wearer is Stanley Ipkiss, an ordinary man about 6 feet 22 inches tall and weighing around 190 pounds. But when he puts on the mask, everything changes. The wearer becomes the embodiment of absolute chaos. His body is nearly immortal. His transformations infinite. He can create objects from nothing, and he bends reality like a mad cartoon. His opponent is Omni-Man, Nolan Grayson, the legendary Viltrumite warrior and one of the most fearsome creatures that ever existed. Nolan is approximately 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighs around 250 pounds. He possesses superhuman strength, superhuman speed, incredible speed, the ability to fly, near indestructible durability, and millennia of combat experience. He ends battles by tearing his opponents apart before they even understand what's happening. This isn't just a battle of strength against strength, it's a clash of two types of power operating under two completely different laws, between a being who fights by the laws of physics of the universe and someone who can laugh at those very laws. What happens when a warrior who can dash through a city at supersonic speed confronts someone who can turn a devastating punch into a cartoonish farce? Let's analyze each warrior before the battle begins to see who truly wins. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of the most exciting battles. The Mask represents the complete opposite, absolute chaos. The Mask doesn't control reality with order or power. He breaks it with absurdity. The mystical mask transforms the wearer into the embodiment of cartoon physics, where all laws of physics exist only if they are interesting enough. The mask can shapeshift, create objects from nothing, recreate bodies, and turn reality into a giant joke. When the mask appears, conventional logic begins to lose its meaning. In combat, the mask is an almost unpredictable nightmare. He can create colossal weapons, turn the battlefield into a stage of madness, and leave opponents unable to predict what will happen next. But what makes the mask truly terrifying is that he doesn't just defeat opponents with power. He turns the battle into a game where even the rules change at his will. The mask's durability also surpasses all conventional limits. Even when crushed, pierced, or torn apart, his body can regenerate almost instantly. In many cases, the mask doesn't dodge damage. He simply treats it as part of the game. But the mask also has his weaknesses. He's often driven by his playful and chaotic nature. This makes him easily distracted and not always serious. And in a fight against a cold and ruthless warrior like Omni-Man, that very carelessness could backfire. Omni-Man represents absolute power and domination by force. Nolan doesn't alter reality or bend the laws of physics. He imposes them with the might of a Viltrumite warrior. Born from a race that conquered the galaxy, Omni-Man possesses enough strength to crush a city, supersonic speed, the ability to fly, and near invincible durability. In combat, Omni-Man is an almost unstoppable nightmare. He doesn't fight with emotion or chaos. He fights with experience, ruthlessness, and absolute efficiency. Nolan can charge through armies, crush opponents with just a few blows, and end battles before the enemy can react. But what makes Omni-Man truly terrifying is that he doesn't just defeat his opponents. He completely destroys their will to resist with overwhelming power. Omni-Man's durability also far surpasses the limits of normal biology. He can survive devastating battles, endure immense pressure, and continue fighting even when his body is pushed to its limits. In many instances, Nolan doesn't dodge blows. He simply endures them and moves forward. But Omni-Man also has weaknesses. Despite his immense power, Nolan fights based on the laws of physics and traditional warrior thinking. This makes him vulnerable to opponents who operate on irrationality and unpredictability. And in a fight against a chaotic entity like the Mask, Omni-Man's pragmatism and familiar fighting style could backfire. This battle is a clash between absolute physical power and illogical chaos. Omni-Man possesses a type of power that operates according to the brutal laws of the universe, faster, stronger, and overwhelming everything with sheer force. Meanwhile, the Mask is the embodiment of cartoon physics, an entity capable of breaking those very laws with absolute absurdity. Omni-Man controls the battle with speed, experience, and overwhelming power. The Mask turns the battlefield into a frenzied joke where logic has no meaning. Omni-Man has the advantage in speed, fighting ability, and ruthlessness. Nolan almost never hesitates, is undisturbed, and always finishes off opponents as quickly as possible. In a direct confrontation, he can charge forward at incredible speed, crushing the battlefield and taking down most enemies before they can react. However, the Mask possesses a near immunity to that type of fighting. He can regenerate bodies, shapeshift, create objects from nothing, and bend reality in unpredictable ways. If Omni-Man charges in with absolute power, he might realize his opponent isn't playing by the rules. This battle isn't simply about who's stronger. It's a question of whether absolute physical strength can overwhelm an entity that refuses to obey any rules, or whether the Mask's insane chaos will turn even a Viltrumite warrior into a character in his own joke. Step into the fray to see who will emerge victorious. In the heart of the ruined metropolis at midnight, Omni-Man hovered in mid-air, his red cape torn in places. He had just finished off a team of heroes and was looking for more targets. Suddenly, a shrill laugh echoed from the dark streets below. The Mask emerged from the rubble, grinning hideously. Omni-Man frowned intensely, his eyes cold and sharp. He lunged forward at supersonic speed, delivering a devastating punch to the Mask's face. The impact was like thunder. The Mask's body slammed into a building and flattened like a sandwich. Omni-Man landed on the flattened body of his opponent. The Mask suddenly inflated like a rubber balloon, sending Omni-Man flying 50 meters away. He flipped to his feet, the Mask still intact, then let out a long, savage howl. From behind, the Mask pulled out a massive sledgehammer. He swung the hammer down hard on Omni-Man's head. Viltrumite was smashed into the pavement, creating a 10-meter-deep crater. Omni-Man roared in fury. He grabbed the Mask by the neck and soared into the sky, hurtling straight up into the atmosphere at maximum speed. The two collided repeatedly in the stratosphere. Omni-Man punched, kicked, and tore the Mask's body apart. But the two halves of the Mask's body continued to talk to each other cheerfully, then automatically reassembled, as if nothing had happened. The Mask transformed into a green jet, firing a barrage of missiles at Omni-Man. Omni-Man dodged most but was hit by a few, his face showing genuine frustration. Omni-Man roared. He held the Mask tightly and hurtled towards the sun at near light speed. As they approached the scorching sun, the Mask laughed maniacally. He blew a powerful breath. Omni-Man was frozen solid inside a rectangular block of ice. The Mask transformed into his Eskimo form, pulled out a giant fishing rod, and tossed Omni-Man like a fish towards Earth. Viltrumite crashed into the heart of the city. Omni-Man stood up, his eyes bloodshot, and lunged forward, intending to punch the Mask through the chest. But the Mask smiled gently, pursed his lips, and blew a heart-shaped kiss towards his opponent. That kiss suddenly swelled into a giant, animated nuclear bomb. The horrific explosion engulfed Omni-Man. As the smoke cleared, Nolan Grayson lay sprawled on the ground, his cloak torn to shreds, his body covered in wounds, his limbs trembling uncontrollably. The Mask leisurely approached, bending down to look at his opponent, struggling to get up. He raised his hand, pulling out a giant, gleaming pair of scissors. With a powerful cut, the mask sliced through the air around Omni-Man, creating a cartoon-like rift leading straight into the mask's chaotic, comical dimension. The mask laughed loudly, shoving Omni-Man into the rift. Viltrumite vanished amidst screams, swallowed into the cartoon world forever. The mask clapped his hands in satisfaction, spun around, and danced amidst the rubble. Tonight, the winner is the mask. Omni-Man is one of the most fearsome warriors in his world, a being capable of crushing civilizations, traversing cities, and overwhelming virtually any opponent with sheer physical strength. But the mask doesn't fight within that same frame of reference. He doesn't confront with physical force. He operates on a completely different level, where logic and reality only exist if they are interesting enough. Omni-Man relies on speed, strength, and the ability to overwhelm head-on, all belonging to the physical world. The mask, with his chaotic nature, can shatter that very foundation, not by resisting Nolan's power, but by rendering the laws that constitute that power meaningless. Omni-Man wins every physical clash. He is faster, stronger, and more dangerous in every moment of combat. But the mask doesn't need to win that confrontation. He just needed to win the game he created. And he did that by drawing his opponent into a world where fists, speed, and the laws of physics were no longer the answer. When Omni-Man charged in with his full power, he was playing a game the mask never intended to follow. And when the rules disappear, absolute power disappears with them. What do you think of this matchup between the mask and Omni-Man? Comment below and let us know. Do you think this outcome is fair, or did Omni-Man still have a chance if he changed his approach? Who should win when absolute physical power clashes with chaos that breaks all rules? Could Omni-Man learn to fight someone who doesn't play by the rules, or is the mask simply the kind of opponent outside of anything Nolan has ever fought? And next, what kind of fight would you like to see? Another Viltrumite warrior confronts reality-bending entities? Or should the mask test his skills against an even more insane and dangerous enemy? Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any of the next Who Would Win battles, where all limits are broken, all rules can crumble, and only the strongest, or the most unpredictable, will stand until the end.